Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Teaching While Talking. I'm Monkey, and today I'm being joined by...
Hi, I'm Harold. I'm one of Monkey's roommates.
Yeah. Harold, how have you been?
I've been good, Monkey. How have you been?
I've been alright. It's been pretty hot here. So, in Washington, it's normally, it's pretty chill. It's mostly, especially Western Washington, is mostly known for, rain, overcast. Not too hot, not too cold, just kind of gray and whatever weather you associate with gray.
Yeah.
But it's been sunny.
Yeah.
And when it's sunny here, and people are not used to the heat. There's no ACs in anyone's houses. It's a rough time.
Yeah. And I've gotten used to the weather here over the last 5 years that I've been living here.
Yeah.
So it's now it's 80 degrees here, but it feels like it's 100 degrees.
Right.
But I'm from Texas where it normally is 100 degrees. So it's I'd have a bad time if I went back to Texas.
For sure. I used to live in Alabama, and it's warm there all the time, and I thought nothing of it. I'm like, dude, this is great.
Yeah.
And then come up here and I was like, yeah, it's fine. And then just after living here longer, it's man, 70 degrees is I'm sweating bullets.
Yeah.
It's a
bad time.
It's a bad time. Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you been up to, man, though?
I've been going back to school this year.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Anything in particular?
Spanish.
Nice.
I like Spanish.
Yeah. Is that the degree you're going for, or is that just a hobby or a minor or something like that?
Well, right now I'm just going for general studies.
Oh, okay.
An associate's
Sure.
degree.
Yeah.
Which is good. I tend to find that with my GI Bill, they only pay for classes that go towards my degree. So
right.
going for that with that being my degree, it's much more forgiving in terms of what classes I can take and what classes will actually be paid for.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. That's understandable.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you couldn't tell, Harold and I's the way we interact generally involves us just sort of sitting around playing games, watching TV or something, just being yeah.
Yeah.
So if that comes out a little bit, just follow along with us. There may be there's gonna be highs, there's gonna be lows in this conversation, but we're gonna try to keep it here with you in the audience. I don't know if you could hear that, but anyways, so Harold, though, you said you're going for Spanish, though, right?
Yeah.
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 That's cool.
Took I had to take a foreign language in high school.
Okay.
And took Spanish.
Yeah.
Really liked it. Ended up taking a lot of Spanish. And
Okay.
Enjoyed it.
That's cool.
Thought maybe I want to be a Spanish teacher.
Awesome. You see, I also took Spanish in high school, but I remember gato equals cat.
Right.
Right. I remember that. Casa is box.
No, that's caja.
Caja. See,
Casa is house.
I mean, houses, they're kind of like boxes that people live inside. It's
it's totally the same thing.
Right. So man.
Yeah.
Man. But so you want to teach Spanish, right?
Yeah.
Could you teach me a little bit of Spanish?
Yeah, definitely. So I decided I'll tell you a little about about cognates and false cognates.
Okay.
Which is cognates are words in Spanish that look and or sound like words in English. And I know the very first test I took in high school Spanish was the first or second day of class, and the teacher's okay, you guys are going to take a test, and we're wait, what are you doing? We don't know Spanish.
Oh.
And the teacher's no, she's it's fine, it's cognates, everyone's going to ace the test. And we did, because cognates you can just look at the word and be oh, that means this. And it's pretty easy. It's the example I have here on this piece of paper.
Yep.
You also have one.
He also gave me a piece of paper.
Yes. My example for a cognate is it's pronounced hamburguesa, but it looks like hamburguesa.
Huh.
Which means hamburger. That one's pretty easy.
Yeah.
You can just look at that and know, oh, that's hamburger.
Hamburguesa looked like hamburger. Makes me hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see that. For sure.
But then there's also false cognates.
Okay.
Which kind of trip you up, because it's it looks and or sounds like a word in English.
Okay.
But it's actually not that word that you think it is. So,
Okay.
yeah. So the example I have here is colegio,
Uh-huh.
which looks like college.
Right,
But
yeah, it looks like a English spelling of college.
Yes, but it actually means high school.
Oh. I mean, yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah.
It definitely means something a little different.
Yeah. So it can definitely kind of trip you up. So I decided to make a game out of this because I think probably one of the reasons you didn't retain a lot of Spanish is
Right.
because I think when you're learning something, you have to have fun with it.
Right.
And the thing with languages and like all things, if you don't use it, you lose it.
For sure, absolutely.
And with Spanish, I found like I did a lot better with it in high school because it was fun.
Yeah.
And that's why,
Cool.
I
Yeah.
like listen to Spanish music, so I retain some of it. So I decided to make this a game.
Awesome. I'm all for making learning fun, so yeah. Games
So-
are cool.
Yeah, so we're going to play a game called Cognate or False Cognate,
Yeah.
which is I'm going to say a word in Spanish,
Okay.
and you're going to guess whether or not it's a cognate or a false cognate.
Okay.
So we'll start with the first one. I
Uh-huh.
decided to make it easy for you.
Okay.
It's abnormal. Now, do you think that is a cognate or a false cognate?
I think that's a cognate. I think it sounds like the word abnormal. I think it's abnormal.
And you would be right.
Yes.
So you got one right.
Awesome.
So the second word is arena. Now, do you think that is a cognate or a false cognate?
I think it's a cognate. It looks pretty much exactly like the word arena, so I think it means arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what you would think, but you would be wrong.
Oh.
It actually means sand.
Oh.
The word for arena in Spanish is anfiteatro, which, if you
Okay.
think about it, it kind of sounds like amphitheater.
Right. Okay.
So-
I mean, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that.
So, yeah.
Cool.
So the third word is manuscrito. Do you think that is a cognate or a false cognate?
I think that's a cognate for manuscript because there's not a lot of words that look like that. So
And
that's yeah.
you would be right.
Yes.
Manuscript.
Success.
Yes. So you got 2 right and 1 wrong so far.
I mean, that's
yeah, it's pretty good.
It's on the positive trend.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the next word is falta. Do you think that is a cognate or a false cognate?
I think it's a false cognate because I'm not entirely sure what that word would be.
Right. Well, you're right. It is a false cognate, but to me it kind of looks like fault, like something would be my fault.
Oh, right.
But
I mean,
yeah.
I see that now.
But
that
that
makes sense.
But that's actually not what it means.
Oh,
That falta means like a lack or a shortage of something,
huh.
whereas culpa means fault. It's kind of like culprit.
Okay. Right.
The culprit
Right.
kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I see that.
So, yeah.
Sweet.
So now the next one is sopa.
Sopa.
Cognate or false cognate?
I think it's a cognate. I think it sounds like soap. I think it's soap.
It sounds like soap. It looks like soap, but it's not soap.
Oh.
It's soup.
Soup?
Yes.
I mean, it's got some of the same letters in there.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of similar, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's soup. And actually, the word for soap is jabón.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's not what I would have expected.
No, but
Sure.
it's what it is.
Yeah.
So the next word is rapido. Cognate or
Rapido.
false cognate?
I think that's a cognate for fast or rapid or
Yes,
something.
rapid.
Yeah.
It is a cognate. You were right.
Okay. Yeah.
It means rapid.
Sweet.
Yes. So next word is ropa. Cognate or false cognate?
I'm gonna say false cognate because Sopa led me astray. So I'm gonna say false cognate because I don't trust Ropa.
It is a false cognate. It looks like rope, but it's not rope because the word for rope is cuerda.
Okay.
But ropa actually means clothes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so one more. The
right.
last word is receta. Cognate or false cognate?
I think that's a cognate for receipt.
And that's what you would think, but you would be wrong.
Dang it.
It's a false cognate. Receta actually means recipe or prescription. And the word for receipt is recibo.
Okay. All right. No, I get that.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that connection.
Yeah, but no, I'm going to say, yeah, you got one more right than the ones you got wrong, so
Success.
congratulations, you are the winner of cognate or false cognate.
I won.
Yay!
Yeah. Awesome. Which, all right. So this is going down a little bit of a different path, but this idea of things being represented in other languages,
Mhm.
like that reminds me of have you seen? There's a few movies that I want to talk about that I think do something similar.
Okay.
And I think that's sort of. I think you might find this interesting.
All right.
So, all right, you've heard of. All right, I mean, okay. Obviously, you've heard of this, but this is something I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Is Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm okay. So the way how I tend to process things tends to be a little scatterbrained, but just follow me on this, all right? We may go down some rabbit trails, but we're gonna get there, okay?
Okay.
All right.
I trust you.
So, you've heard the phrase, "There's nothing new under the sun," right?
Yeah.
I would say that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
All right, now follow me on this.
All right.
It's because everyone draws inspiration from something, and that's not inherently a bad thing. So I want to use Star Wars as an example of that, because Star Wars, George Lucas, he drew inspiration from a lot of things, that in turn drew inspiration from other things. And there's just this long, long chain of people borrowing from one thing after another until we finally get what we have now. And even though Star Wars, is very beloved and lots of people really like it, in some sense, yeah, we had never seen in film two guys fight with laser swords.
Yeah.
Like we did in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
But it's not really, inherently new, Like, there's a lot of things it drew from past things.
Just not the laser swords.
I don't actually know if, Flash Gordon, which is, one of the most classic sci-fi things, ever used laser swords. But I'm not sure. Maybe. Laser swords may be a Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Right, but okay, so the reason why I mentioned that is because George Lucas, when he was creating Star Wars, he had 3 major inspirations for it, okay?
Okay.
Two major and then one sort of branched off, okay? So one of the first major inspirations for Star Wars is, there's this book by Joseph Campbell called A Hero with 1,000 Faces, or A Hero of 1,000 Faces. It's one of those.
Okay.
It's basically, if you've ever heard of the thing called The Hero's Journey.
Yeah.
This author, Joseph Campbell, he lays out this idea that, all these myths, legends, and fantasies and stuff, across the world, across cultures, all have,
these same common elements.
Right, yeah. Even though, each culture has their own different way of telling it, and they may emphasize different parts, there's these, core elements that all make up, the heroic epic, the hero's journey. And when you take a look at Star Wars, at least A New Hope, it pretty much, it's that in a movie form.
Right.
It's, if you just follow A Hero with 1,000 Faces and you follow how Joseph Campbell lays out a hero's journey, it's pretty much exactly that. You can be almost, I want to say almost shot for shot.
Right.
You'd be this is the part of the movie where this part of the hero's journey happens. The hero has to leave his home or something.
Right, which I've heard that said, but I've never actually read that book, so I don't know. But, you've read Aragon.
Yeah,
which is my favorite book. And after reading that a few times, I'm this is basically Star Wars New Hope, but in a fantasy setting.
Right, because once again, it captures, this is the heroic epic, right? This is, the basic elements of it. Here are the most common elements you'll see. Mm-hmm. And Aragon sort of, it tells that story.
Yeah.
But George Lucas didn't just draw from that. He also drew, so when he was, right before, I want to say, in his, art school days, directing school days kind of thing, when he was learning film and stuff, he was really, really, really into cowboy movies.
Really?
Okay? So, right. Now, this is important because this influences Star Wars. Cowboys. One of his favorite movies was things like The Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
One of the most iconic things about The Magnificent Seven, if anyone out there doesn't know, is that The Magnificent Seven is basically Kurosawa's The Seven Samurai.
Right, which I've seen that one. I like it.
Right.
Never saw Magnificent Seven, but...
Magnificent Seven...
Same thing with cowboys, from what I've heard.
Right. It's a little shorter. It's definitely a more, Americanized telling of that story. But it's the same story.
Yeah.
And so when they were making Magnificent Seven, they drew heavily on Seven Samurai, but they made it to fit American culture. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
The thing about Kurosawa, though, when Kurosawa had been making things like Seven Samurai and some of his other films that were, later adapted to cowboy movies, like his Yojimbo would later become A Fistful of Dollars with Clint Eastwood. But when he was growing up, he was really into cowboy movies, which is this really weird cycle and like drawing inspiration from one another. So it starts with somebody made a movie, right? And they definitely drew inspiration because, when we started making movies, it wasn't like, we've come up with something entirely new, because that's, people are always drawing inspiration from somewhere.
Right.
So they made these cowboy movies, right? And then Akira Kurosawa is all like, yeah, that's awesome. I like that. And then he grows up, and then he starts making films to really capture, like, what he felt was the feel of them, right? Like, these heroes living out their ideals in the world, right?
Right.
And that's reflected in his movies. And then he so well captured that when you take that story, Seven Samurai, like one of his biggest films,
right,
and you make it a cowboy movie, it works perfectly.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, he captured that essence. He drew inspiration from cowboy movies, which then became a samurai movie, which then a cowboy movie drew inspiration from, which George Lucas drew inspiration from. Combine that with the hero's journey, and then somehow you get Star Wars.
Okay, so I haven't seen Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
But I have seen Seven Samurai.
Right.
Can you explain to me the connection between Seven Samurai and Star Wars? Because I'm not really understanding what the correlation there is.
Okay, so there are a few great examples of that. Is when some of the specific way George Lucas had things in Star Wars designed, like Darth Vader's helmet looks pretty much exactly like a certain kind of samurai helmet.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, so also his original idea for Star Wars was everyone used swords, like lightsabers. There were blasters. People had lightsabers because it was going to be more like that samurai story.
Right.
But then as he ended up refining it and changing some of the ideas, he ended up making it so, it sort of became a fusion of the two, right? You've got people running around with swords and, like, honor and ideals, right? Like that sort of samurai thing going on, even if, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you've got someone like Han Solo, who's very much like a certain kind of cowboy, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
He's not necessarily like the John Wayne cowboy, but he's definitely a kind of cowboy.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think Star Wars is one of the great examples of when you take different inspirations, you can make something really, really cool. Like samurai and cowboys and heroic epic, mash them all together and you come out with something that on one hand may not be like totally new, but it definitely feels fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm really into Star Wars, so.
Yeah, Star Wars is cool.
Yeah. So, hey man, it's been great having you on the show.
Yeah.
Love to have you on again sometime.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah. And thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a good day. Hope you all